Have you ever felt like you're living out a story that was written for you a long, long time ago? Almost like there's a script passed down through generations that's running silently in the background of your life. Well, that's what we're talking about today. It's called the generational algorithm, and in so many ways, it's running the show.
Think about it like this. It's an invisible piece of code, an emotional operating system that got installed when you were very young, shaping your entire world before you even had a say in it. You've probably felt it. Maybe it's that automatic reaction you have in an argument, the one you can't stand, or a pattern in your relationships you just can't seem to shake, or even just a feeling that shows up out of nowhere, and you have no idea why. That's the program. It's sending you a notification. Now, this invisible code, it's way more than just a vague feeling. It's actually a neurological reality. For most of us, we're being guided by this incredibly powerful emotional programming that was wired into us when we were kids, back when our brains were just trying to figure out how the world works.
This deep programming, it basically acts like a filter for your reality. It kind of decides which feelings are safe to feel and which ones need to be turned down. It creates this magnetic pull toward relationship dynamics that feel familiar, even the ones that hurt. You could say it's the director working behind the scenes of your emotional life. And the scale of this is, well, it's huge. Studies and clinical observations suggest that a whopping 75% of adults are running on emotional software that was programmed before they were 7 years old. Just let that sink in for a second. The core of your emotional operating system was pretty much finished before you were done with first grade.
So, where does all this code even come from? To really get it, let's use a metaphor from our digital world. You know, long before we had apps to connect us, we had our family. That was our very first social network.
So in this network, your emotional feed keeps serving you the feelings and reactions you're most used to. Your family's worldview creates this powerful filter bubble, which shapes what you think is normal. And those generational patterns, like anxiety or a certain way of dealing with conflict, they basically go viral. And an emotional trigger? Well, that's just a notification from the old program.
But here is the massive difference. On our phones, we can adjust our privacy settings. We can mute people. We can delete the app entirely. This foundational algorithm, though, it was installed without our permission, long before we even knew we had a choice.
Okay, so what happens when this code, which was written for a totally different time and place, is still running in our adult lives? Well, it can cause some pretty serious glitches. It's like it's running emergency software when the emergency ended years ago. This quote comes from an anonymized story in the book. It's about a really successful executive who would get physically sick before big meetings. Her body was reacting to a tense boardroom like she was a little kid in a dangerous home. Her programming it couldn't tell the difference between a fight over a spreadsheet and a real threat to her survival. And let's be really clear about this. These patterns weren't created to hurt you, no way. They were actually brilliant adaptations for survival. For a child, not being able to cry might have been a way to avoid a parent's anger. Being on high alert might have kept a kid safe in a chaotic house. These programs made perfect sense back then. The problem is that now, they often create the very pain we're trying so hard to avoid.
So, if you're listening to this and feeling kind of stuck in some of these patterns, let's just take a breath here for a second. The core idea from the therapist who came up with this whole concept, Francisco, is really a message of hope, a message of self-compassion.
This right here, this is the central insight. Your struggles are not a sign that you have a personal flaw or some kind of character defect. They're not proof that you are fundamentally broken. It's just programming. And the best thing about programming is that it can always be updated. So how do we even begin an update like this? Well, just recognizing that the program exists in the first place, that is the first and honestly the most powerful step. The next is realizing that you're not just a passive user of that program anymore.
This is where everything shifts back to you. They might have written that original code, but you hold the keys to the system now. You're not just the user anymore. You are the developer.
And so the question becomes, what new story do you want to write? What new patterns do you want to install? What kind of legacy do you want to create, not just for yourself, but for the generations that are going to follow you?
This has just been an invitation to take a look under the hood, to see the code that's been running your life. And if you're curious, the user manual for your own emotional operating system is right there, waiting for you to write the next chapter.